Hello everyone, today I'm going to be doing my very first Cold War Zombies map review on Maschine. I'm planning to do one of these for every time a map comes out during Cold War's life cycle. Now I'm going to be reviewing the map based on 5 different categories. I might change these categories in future reviews as some of them are way too close to each other. Anyway, the 5 categories are visuals, atmosphere, map flow/gameplay, uniqueness, and the Easter egg. And then I'm going to give an overall rating, which will not be the sum of all the 5 other ratings. It will just be what I think the map deserves as a whole. Now I'm going to try as hard as I can to judge Maschine on its own as a map and not as the game it's connected to, which is hard since it's the only map in Cold War right now. So it will be hard to separate like some of Cold War's mechanics from Maschine itself. But I want to judge Maschine as if it were a map in Black Ops 3 or Black Ops 4 or something like that. More on its own compared to being like the game itself, if that makes any sense. And again, this is all my personal opinion, and I like to have discussions with people about zombies, so if you have a different opinion, just let me know, and I might even agree with you because I change my opinions all the time. Now visually, Cold War Zombies is the most impressive graphically zombies game we've had yet. But if we want to take Maschine by itself, while the non-Dark Ether mode is not, it's kind of bland, there's not too much going on. It's more the contrast between the Dark Ether mode and the enemies and the Pack-a-Punch camos and the wonder weapons and the like really desolate looking land with not much color that makes the map really cool. So Cold War graphic wise compared to anything we've had before is 10 out of 10 because it's the best we've had. But Maschine itself, if just like the visual aesthetic of it, and this will definitely change if Dark Ether mode is brought into every other map, because then that changes what Maschine is as a map, because it wouldn't be a unique factor of its own that really changed its aesthetic, and it would kind of blend in with the other maps. But anyway, so I would say visually Maschine would be a 3 out of 5, because on its own, without Dark Ether mode, it can be a bit bland looking. There's a lot of gray and white, but it does contrast well with the other bright colors and enemies that pop and the perk machines. Again, the map looks great when it's in Dark Ether mode, or there's a Megaton running around and you have a Pack-a-Punched weapon, or when anything really colorful is in. It creates a good contrast. But I'm saying, just because compared to older maps, aesthetically, like, not graphics-wise, it's going to be a 3 out of 5 for me right now. I'm looking forward to Firebase C. It looks much more colorful from preview images. Okay, next let's move on to atmosphere. So Maschine sets its atmosphere very well. Like, you got the radios talking to you with Weaver and one of 3 other people that will be helping you along the way. But after a while, if you're going for high rounds, the atmosphere does not really keep itself up unless you are constantly going into Dark Ether mode, which is not possible to keep up for a long period anyway. If you're doing the Easter egg, it keeps the atmosphere a bit, but it's mostly the whole beginning portion of setting up the map that has the most atmosphere. And once you're playing like your 4th game of Maschine, it begins to lose its magic a little. Now, I would give this 5 out of 5 for the beginning, because first couple games of Maschine really set itself well. But there's a big factor that changes the atmosphere rating. The official rating, the only one that counts. Anyway, the characters. You do not play as real characters, you play as operators. And the characters help set the atmosphere really well, because you're playing as the main characters. Not in Maschine, I'm talking about zombie characters in general. But this is the first game where it's not that way, so this might happen for every map if I continue atmosphere as a section. But Once you're going into the high rounds, the map really starts to lose some of its atmosphere because your characters don't talk about the map when they enter different areas. I know I know even when setting up in other maps that only happens like once, but your characters don't have conversations with each other. They don't compliment each other on kills, stuff like that. Like Black Ops 4 and Black Ops 3, I know I keep on bringing up those two, but that's because they were very dialogue heavy, but it really helped with the immersion a lot and the atmosphere, and like you knew how the characters felt about where they were. So I'm going to give atmosphere a 4 out of 5 because regularly, if they had characters, I think it would be a 5 out of 5. But I'm giving it a 4 out of 5 because I think it sets it really well, and the ambient music is good. Especially when a megaton spawns, you'll immediately know when it spawns because the music starts up. So yeah, 4 out of 5. Now let's talk about the map flow / the gameplay loop. Now, D Maschine is probably the most accessible map in a while for zombies in recent history. So I'm not gonna judge it too hardly because it's trying to be an accessible starter map. It has many big areas for training. It's very easy to dodge zombies because most of the map is wide open. And the pack-a-punch is very simple and you are told what to do for it. So I'm not going to judge it too harshly. I think if the future maps continue being super simple, then I might start judging it more harshly, but I don't know, I think it works good as a starter map. Less than Shadows of Evil is a great map, but as a starter map, it is not. It is one of the most complicated zombies maps. Anyway, so yeah, I'm going to give the map flow, or maybe I should talk a bit more about it. There's not too much, but once you get Pack-a-Punch done, you're gonna spend most of your time not in the labs anymore unless you need to get your shield back. I think they should add another shield, armor, weapon upgrade system like on top of the map, the upper layer. There's 2 teleporters. I think there's 2. There's either 2 or 3 teleporters that send you down. I'm pretty sure there's 2, but it really helps speed up the map gameplay. I think there's 3 actually. God, I can't remember. Anyway, they help speed up gameplay, and it helps so stuff doesn't take too long all the time. The one thing is, after grabbing the machine part and spawning back into the D Maschine lab room, sometimes the zombies will take forever to start respawning if you're trying to keep a zombie, and they're kind of like stuck above ground. So they're still trying to find you, but they're like above ground so they can't tell you're lower. But that's a very specific issue, and overall I think the map is great as a starter map, so I'm going to give the map flow / gameplay a 4 out of 5, which is a good rating. I know I gave the last one a 4 out of 5, and I was talking about it negatively, but 4 out of 5 is good. I think if it was a bit more complex, with a bit more Easter eggs in the map, because there's not too many, I would give it a 5 out of 5, but it's also going to sit at a 4 out of 5. Okay, let's move on to the Easter egg. I'm first going to talk about the main Easter egg, and then I'm going to talk about the side Easter eggs and Wonder Weapon. I might make Wonder Weapon its own section in future reviews. But anyway, okay, so I think this Easter egg is the definitely best starting Easter egg that's ever been put in a Treyarch Zombies game. Because if I could think of another good starter one, it would be Final Reich from World War II. But this one is very accessible, probably the easiest Easter egg Treyarch has ever made. The story is simple and easy to understand. You don't need 10 years of knowledge on the zombie storyline, since this is sort of kind of a reboot, but still a continuation of the Ether storyline. So, yeah, I think all players will get mostly what's going on, so that the story itself is also much more accessible. Anyway, so the boss fight is pretty easy. You're just gonna want to have the D-Electrobolt, most likely, that's the most effective one, and some type of packed shotgun. And as long as you keep zombies and enemies off of Dr. Orlov and make sure you don't die, you are pretty much good to go. So I think the Easter egg and its difficulty, if this was just some random map in the middle of a game's life cycle, I don't think I would like the Easter egg as much, but I think it's the perfect Easter egg for a starter map, like the first map of a game. Like, compared to, like, let's say Shadows of Evil. Shadows of Evil was much less accessible as a starter map. Probably very small percentage of players who on Black Ops 3 ever even attempted the Easter egg. I just think since as starting Easter egg for the first map in the game, it's going to be a 5 out of 5 because I think it's the perfect way to start the season off. Now I hope in the future we get more complex Easter eggs that are maybe just have a little bit more depth and length to them, so it feels like more of an achievement when you finally complete them. That's what I liked about Black Ops 4, Black Ops 3 Easter eggs. I'll stop bringing up those two games. But I think this is the perfect way to start the season again. I just hope with maps later in the season they have a bit more complexity to them and maybe actual boss fights, which I'm sure we will get. Anyway, now I want to move on to the wonder weapon. This isn't like a section I'm going to rate, I just want to talk about the wonder weapons. Now the base version of the D, called the D Shockwave, is already a great weapon. Well, it's good in its firing mode for pressing R2 / left click. When it's shooting out the balls of electricity, it'll disintegrate mostly everything in its way, except bosses. The problem is, to get more ammo, you have to use its suction mode / vacuum mode, which will start to be really ineffective unless you have an insta-kill on later rounds. So, I'd say the best alternate version of the D Shockwave would be the D Electrical. It does good damage and it has a lot of ammo, and it's great against bosses, or just really one boss. It's great against the Megaton, as is the D Cryo Emitter. Both the D Shockwave, not the D Shockwave, both the Electrical and the Cryo Emitter will take down the Megaton really easily. The D Nova 5 is pretty cool. If you got a whole horde and shoot it in front of you, it will take out hordes of zombies pretty easily. High rounds it starts getting ineffective though. And the D Thermofastic I have not had as much experience with, but from what I've heard it does pretty good damage. I've only used it a little bit because I don't like the slower versions of wonder weapons. But I think it does good damage, but is much slower, and you'd be better off going with the D Electrical. And the weapon quests for each version are super easy. However, you're not able to do the Electrical or the Thermofastic until you complete the beginning part of building the Ether Scope, which is pretty easy. I think it's cool how it's tied into the Easter egg. And these are probably the easiest elemental upgrades we've had for a while, unless you count Ancient Evil, because aside from some of the challenges, most of the gauntlets are pretty easy. So now to rank the map as a whole. Now I think this is probably the strongest starting map Treyarch has ever had. So as a starter map, I would give it a 8 or 9 out of 10. Not a 10 out of 10 because it's not perfect, but nothing is. But as a map itself, not connected or not thought of as a starter map, like pretend it was just in the middle of a game's life cycle, I'm trying to judge it just as a map on its own, like not in the context of the game it's from or of being a starting map. I think I would give it a 7.5 out of 10, which is good. That's a good score. I just think that compared to other maps we might get, which is not what I'm judging it on, I'm just thinking by itself in a void, I think it's a 7.5 out of 10. But yeah, I think it's an excellent starter map and the perfect first map for Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, most likely. So yeah, I would give it a 7.5 out of 10. I think it's a very strong starter map, probably the strongest Treyarch starter map ever. But I would say as a map on its own, it's a 7.5, which is still pretty good. I'm really excited to see what else we get out of this year's zombie season. So that wraps up the review. I want to do one of these for every map in Cold War's life cycle. Let me know what to improve on. I know I'm taking pauses and saying way too much. I need to have more of a script written out so I know what I'm going to say ahead of time, because a lot of this is just freestyling. But I'm looking forward to basically the rest of the life cycle, like I just said. See, and I have a problem repeating things too much. But either way, I'm looking forward to making more. I will stop saying looking forward. I want to make more zombies content throughout the year. I just wanted to get this review over with, and I am excited for Firebase C. The poster looks really cool. Eddie is probably coming back, and I wonder if Nolan North will be voicing him, because I feel like Nolan North could have been lying when he said he wasn't, but a lot of times voice actors lie so that the secret doesn't get spoiled. But anyway, that'll be all for now, and see everyone next time. Also, one more thing, I'm sorry about all the old gameplay. Like, most of the gameplay I'm using was from right after the game launched, so I don't have any high round games saved because I forgot to capture them. But in my future Firebase C review, I will definitely have much better gameplay. Anyway, bye again. Thank you for watching.
Oh.
Don't save.
This is for everything you've done.
May I hope you have fun.
You're not even.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
I saved you, Daniel. Wait, what is going on?
What is going on?